Hi, I'm Jeremy, and I recently finished CEO Excellence by the senior partners at Mckinsey Company. So today I just thought I would share my thoughts and opinions of this book, along with talk about some of the things I like about it, and perhaps most importantly, discuss who I think that it would be best for, who would get the most out of it, who I think would enjoy it the most. So first and foremost, without giving away any spoilers, I'd just like to briefly discuss what this book is all about. Well, as I've mentioned, it is produced by the senior partners at Mckinsey Company. Now, if you're not aware of Mckinsey Company, they are a management consultancy. And this book is essentially an amalgamation of thousands, or I should say hundreds of interviews with some of the leading corporate leaders or CEOs for some of the biggest companies. So that includes the likes of Netflix, JP Morgan, Sony, among many others. And interestingly, this book is all about looking at how the CEOs have kind of gone on to achieve, despite the fact that many don't. So I didn't realize this before I read this book. And that is actually most CEOs fail within the first 2 to 5 years. A lot of them don't actually last in the job. I found that really, really interesting. And yeah, this book basically distills what makes the successful ones stand out from those. So essentially, the book began with a pool of around 2,000, I think it was 2,400 particular CEOs, and they basically distilled it down to 67. So that's really, really interesting. So they did a lot of different processes to do that. And this book is the amalgamation of it. So what did I like about this book? Well, first and foremost, I love the fact that it's evidence-based. And I love the fact that it's kind of pulled together via interviews. And that kind of makes for a really kind of open and honest style. I also love how by doing that, they've kind of broken down all of the kind of key takeaways into these 6 different mindsets, and that just makes it really, really easy to kind of reflect on the content and kind of implement it. So it kind of gives you a framework, so you can kind of you can start taking some of the advice and actually putting it into practice in your own role, or perhaps in your own business. There's lots of different examples in here. There's even outright advice, and each CEO, when they're kind of mentioned, gives their own. Well, the way this book's written is that it's kind of in each CEO's voice, and it kind of is a very kind of personal approach, and that is really, really enjoyable as well. So yeah, I didn't read this word for word. As you can see, it's really actually quite thick. It's quite a big book, but from the kind of contents and the kind of mindset approaches, it's kind of good to kind of go through. So as an example, I like the look of the mobilizing leaders mindset, so and the team psychology. So that particularly interested me, so I kind of started with that. So yeah, you can kind of pick it up and go through these as you kind of see fit, and I quite like that. But you could read it word for word as well, and I'm sure that'd be very, very insightful. And yeah, I think it's a very unique way of getting an insight into what is less than the top 1% of performers. So yeah, who would I recommend this book to? Well, anyone in a leadership position, or who is kind of keen to advance their career. Perhaps you're even going for a kind of CEO type role. I think for those kind of individuals, it's particularly a great read. But yeah, anyone who's just interested in business, or even the most successful companies, I think it's really interesting to get an insight into these kind of people who are kind of at the forefront of business. So yeah, overall, a really really thoroughly enjoyed this read, and I would recommend the CEO Excellence.